I'm Steph Strickland with another segment for your EAA Spirit of Aviation Week, which is part of our broader EAA Together initiative. I am going to bring into the conversation now a man who you've probably seen out and about in the aviation world. Thank you for joining us, Paul Harrop. How are you?
Hey, Steph, I am doing great. It is super great to connect with you over video chat here. I wish we were together in person in Oshkosh, though.
I know, I do too. I think we're all kind of stuck in this limbo, at least for a little while, but I appreciate you making the time. One of the things I want to talk to you about is your path into aviation. And for folks who don't know, tell people what you do for a living.
I am a producer and reporter for AOPA's show AOPA Live this week, and I also host Flyby, powered by AOPA. So I basically get to tell the story of general aviation for a living. I travel around when there's not COVID and just share the stories that are happening in aviation, go to the events, and if you're not able to go to an air show or go to a fly-in, we try to go there and document it and bring it home to viewers so that they can check it out. So it's a really incredible opportunity to get out and around and see a lot of different corners of aviation.
What's your background? How did you get into this line of work?
Yeah, I'm a TV reporter and anchor by trade. I started out in a small market and kind of worked my way up from there, and done a couple different things in television, but always had an interest in aviation. Never really had the time or the money to mess with it when I was in TV news, so I happened to find a job posting that mixed my interest in aviation and my background as a television storyteller, and fortunately in 2012 was able to merge those, and it's been an incredible journey ever since.
Were you involved in storm chasing at some point? I found that particularly interesting just because I'm on the West Coast and we don't see that kind of stuff out here.
Yeah, we don't have earthquakes so much in the heartland, but you know, it's one of those things. It's like I wanted to be a meteorologist as a kid, but high school math and I just weren't the best of friends, so I became a reporter instead. But I was able to live out my childhood dream, actually, of being an on-air television storm chaser in Oklahoma City, and did that for several years, and that was great fun, and got to help save lives with the warning process there, so that was really rewarding.
That's awesome. When you look back at when you got interested in aviation for yourself, I found it interesting that aviation roots run actually quite deep in your family, but that's not necessarily how your path to aviation happened. Tell me a little bit about your family's background in aviation.
Right, my dad was a private pilot. His dad was a glider instructor for the U.S. Army Air Corps back in the day, and then my mom's brother was also a pilot. But I never flew with any of them, so it's something that is definitely in my blood. Definitely I kind of grew up with the knowledge of, but other than going to the occasional air show or out to the airport every once in a rare while, I never actually flew as a kid. So I come from a family of pilots, but not necessarily an aviation family, if you will. So I had to come to it as an adult, which was just fine, and I'm glad that I've done that.
When you decided to go after your pilot's license, like so many people, it can sometimes go in fits and spurts. And your story is very indicative of, I think, what a lot of people go through. Once you decided to aggressively go after it in 2019, that part happened quickly, but there was a run up that was years before that where you thought you wanted to do it. Take me through that process.
Yeah, so when I came to work for AOPA in 2012, I started flight training, and you know, kind of got up against some wintertime weather and said, okay, well, we'll resume back in the spring, and I just never did, and that was 2013, and I'd take the occasional lesson here and there, but I didn't make it a priority. The itch was scratched. You know, we travel a lot via GA at work, and I get to go on some amazing flights and do some amazing things, but it was always as, okay, I'm in the right seat as a student, or I'm in the back seat as the videographer. It was never as pilot in command. And so the itch was kind of always there, but I didn't make time for it. And the thing I tell people when they say, how do you learn to fly? I say, well, you make time for it, because you have to devote the time to it. And I really didn't do that for a number of years. It's kind of funny. I had a couple strong people in my life that I respect a great deal that kind of encouraged me along. I have a coworker named Jill that would always be like, hey, when are you going to get back to it? You really should get back to it. But what really lit the fire under me is actually an EAA employee that I'm friends with, Sarah Nisler, who's in charge of putting a lot of this week together and does a great job there. She started out, and she's got a really incredible journey. I hope you'll have a chance to talk with her and hear her story, but it inspired me. She started out as kind of, she didn't know if she liked flying. And then she started taking lessons, and I saw her sharing these pictures and videos from her lessons on social media, and I'm like, wow, she's really getting into this. And next thing you know, she's soloed and she's becoming a private pilot. And I'm like, well, if this person that maybe didn't have the strongest passion at first can dive right into it and be so inspiring and sharing these amazing flight training posts online, I kind of should probably get back to it. So I credit Sarah with really relighting the fire in 2019 by her sharing her journey and me seeing that over social media, and it reminded me how passionate I had been about it. And yeah, I made it happen in about 3 months once I really decided to, and that involved a lot of early mornings, flying 3, sometimes 4 days a week, but you dive into it, you dedicate the time, and you can make it happen.
Fun fact, she actually passed her check ride days before Oshkosh EAA Airventure, which blew my mind that she had the bandwidth for that. I want to talk about your experience, as you said, the 3 dedicated months, the early mornings. How did you go about finding a flight school or an area that worked with you and what you were trying to accomplish in such a short amount of time?
So I think, and I hate to use this phrase, but I think finding an old man flight instructor versus a young kid really helped me out. I have a coworker who's a CFII, and he's a former Navy fighter pilot. And I went to him and I said, hey, you know, I want to do this, but I'd want to do it rather aggressively. Do you have the bandwidth? Do you have the time? Do you have the interest to do this over the course of the summer, essentially? And he said, yeah, we'll make it work. And so he's an early morning guy. I am not. I never have been. I don't think I ever will be, but I became one for those few months because the air is smoother, the airplanes are more available. It's just a lot better, in my opinion, to learn to fly if you're getting out there early in the morning. So I would get up and go. I live about an hour away from work, which is where the airplanes I was training with were also based at the Frederick Municipal Airport. So it was a commitment to make a night owl like me rise before the sun, get in the car, drive across the mountains, get to Frederick, and be ready and able and mentally primed to learn and to perform well. It was a challenge, but it was very, very rewarding because the sights that you see, the air that you have, the mist that's kind of over the Monocacy River Valley in some summer mornings was all just beautiful to see and beautiful to experience, and kind of the gift that you get for putting in the hard work of getting up early.
You mentioned that you were a morning news anchor when you and I were chatting. How did you survive? I was a morning news anchor myself, and I hated that shift. So how did you survive that?
It takes a lot of toll on your body, as I'm sure you know. The human body is not designed to go into work at 2 in the morning. And I'd get to work at 2 in the morning, and I'd be on the air from 5 to like 8:30 across 2 different TV stations, all the while doing radio news update for a network of 7 radio stations, updating the web, updating the social media. And that was about the time that I started looking for a job when I found the one that I have now posted.
I feel traumatized just hearing that schedule again. It's definitely taken back. When you were going through your flight training, were there concepts that were challenging for you, and what tools did you use to work through them?
Yeah, the concept that was challenging was landing the airplane. I think that's one of the more difficult things that I've ever learned how to do. And I'll tell you how I did it. I actually made a video about this. I was doing everything else right. I could control the airplane. I could perform most of the maneuvers to a reasonable standard, enough that the CFI was ready to solo me. But my landings were still, 90%. What we did is we went out and we flew down the runway at the landing attitude and didn't land. And that's what made it click. I think I had a mental block that, maybe I don't want to pull the nose that high, this low to the ground. It's very uncomfortable the first few times you do it, the first dozen times you do it. So what we did is just went out there, went down the runway at a few feet AGL with that nose and that nose high landing attitude. I was training in a Cessna 172. And once I got that sight picture and the muscle memory and the experience seeing that, that's what made it click. Okay, so instead of staying there in ground effect with the nose high going all the way down the runway, how about we just bleed off that airspeed and let it set right down the next time, and boom, it clicked. But it took not landing to learn how to land.
I am making so many mental notes. As I joke, I'm the perpetual student pilot, so I'm like, memorize that, because of all the things that you learn when you're going through the curriculum. Obviously, that's the one that really counts, and so I appreciate the insight there.
You never have to take off. You always have to land once you've made the decision to take off.
That's exactly right. Did you use online resources, and what did you find work for you? You already mentioned that math isn't your thing, and it's not mine either. And there's probably lots of folks at different parts of their training, who are grappling with trying to, figure some of this stuff out.
Yeah, I used a lot of different resources, and it helps. I have to say I'm spoiled in that my job keeps me plugged in with the academics of aviation. I'm around it. My, day job, 9 to 5, is aviation. So I was mentally primed to learn more, and I had a lot of knowledge already going into it, and just needed to connect the dots and fill in the areas that I was weak on. But I used the Sporties online course. I used M0A. Used a lot of other training resources. The Gleim book, I think, really drove a lot of the theory in. So all those resources are great. Just find the one that works for you, that resonates with you. There's a ton of online ground schools right now. There's a ton of written material, and you really can't go wrong. Just find the one that you like, pick your flavor, and they're all going to serve you fairly well.
Take me back to your first solo. Tell me about that day.
It was just a little over a year ago, and I've got this grin that I just can't wipe off my face thinking about it. We were ready to solo me. It wasn't a real surprise in the sense that, okay, I knew that it was getting close. I just really had to satisfy the CFI that I wasn't going to bend metal or do something dangerous. And, the days before had been that not landing, and okay, it clicks. And then we were going around the patch a few times, and it wasn't the best the first couple times around. And he says, all right, let's do another touch and go. I get it on the runway, and he goes, you know what, make it a full stop. And I thought I'd done something wrong. I thought, oh gosh, we're done flying for the day, we're going home. And then as I'm slowing down, aerodynamic braking, getting those flaps up, the carb heat off, and about ready to make the turn off, he's talking to me, and it takes me a second to process what he's saying. And he's like, all right, when I'm not in this airplane, it's going to take off a lot lighter. You're going to notice the difference. I'm like, wait, what are we? Oh, okay, right. Yeah, we're doing this, I guess. I thought we were going in for the day, but now it's time for me to do this. It kind of struck me as, all right, I've been wanting this moment my entire life. I've been fire hosing the experience of flight training for the past few weeks to really prepare myself for this. This guy who holds the credential to has signed me off to do this. He says I'm ready. Oh man, I've got to fly the airplane now. Most importantly, I've got to land the airplane now. This is all me. There's no one here to help me. And as I was taxiing up to the runway to take off, there was a lump. It was, oh, can I do this? I just took a deep breath, and I made a radio call, got cleared to take off, and at that point it just went back to it. I took off. I had this moment of just pure bliss. It's like I am flying this airplane. This is everything I've always wanted, everything I've always worked towards. And I've just got this goofy grin, and I remember laughing out loud in the airplane as I've just rotated. It was just amazing. And I hope everyone that wants to can get to experience that moment.
Something they must teach you at CFI school, where they don't let you know your solo's coming. Every single person I have talked to so far has been handed an experience where all of a sudden their instructor gets out and goes, okay, off you go. So that way you can't get in your own head about it.
Right. Well, and that, the easiest thing to do is psych yourself out on something like that. So I had a shirt that I had wanted to do, and it had cufflinks and shirt tails. I didn't want to do the t-shirt thing. I was being silly and hipster about it, but it worked out. I've actually got the shirt tail here. It stays usually on the wall in my study, but we have a very talented coworker named Claire who will draw this amazing art on your shirt tails if your CFI asks her to, and of course it's a keepsake that I'll treasure forever. So Definitely a fun day and something I will always remember. Probably, I don't have any kids yet, so to this point, it's probably one of the most significant moments of my life.
You, and I love this, you weren't satisfied with your PPL. You're now marching towards your next rating. Tell me where you're at in your training.
Yeah, I want to get the tail wheel done so I can fly some cool airplanes that have the nose wheel in the back. And I'm working on the instrument. I'm studying. I'm really enjoying the academics of instruments, which I wasn't really expecting to. Everyone has kind of hyped it up as, oh, it's difficult, oh, it's hard, it's the most difficult rating you'll get. Well, perhaps it will be, but I'm really enjoying learning. I'm using the Sporties again. I've got Rob Ryder on my laptop screen a couple nights a week, just studying it. So I'm really trying to progress in the knowledge and the learning. And as soon as we're able to, with COVID, get in the airplane and work on the instrument, I'm hoping to have it done, if not this year, by early spring. I think it'll make me a more accurate pilot, make me a better decision maker, and certainly will help me fly more precisely. The airplanes that I have access to, the fleet I train in, they don't have autopilots, so I'm going to be hand flying all of my instrument procedures, which of course is, once you get up to it, is going to be fine, but I think it'll make me a lot more precise. So yeah, really diving headfirst into the instrument and just going from there. I think it'll add value to the private certificate.
How do you think your job or the way you approach your job has maybe changed now that you have your PPL versus when you didn't?
Well, I think it gives a little bit of a cachet. I kind of had an imposter syndrome thing going on. It's like, okay, I'm telling these stories of these pilots, but I don't hold a certificate. I'm not able to go fly. I can't say that I had soloed or done that. You know, so to be able to have the cachet, have the credential, the provenance of, okay, yeah, I'm a pilot too now, that's helped. I felt more confident in the way I tell stories because I am a pilot now. And that is something that I have enjoyed greatly. I'm very mindful that I'm a newbie. I have 127 hours, and I am right in that danger zone where you start to get some confidence and maybe put yourself at a risk and are at risk for scaring yourself. So I'm mindful of that, and I'm trying to stay primed with safety content, and I just took 2 Air Safety Institute courses this weekend just to stay in that mental priming of a safe mindset. So, you know, it does give confidence, but at the same time, you can't let that confidence make you foolish in the decisions that you make.
Well, now that you've accomplished this goal and you're moving on to your next rating, and you have this job that allows you to touch a lot of different facets of aviation, I have to ask you, what is your favorite airplane and why?
Oh my goodness, without a doubt, the Beechcraft Starship. I don't know, here in my study you can see there's tons of Starship hats and memorabilia. I've got a tie tack sitting around here somewhere. Starship is to me the most elegantly designed, beautiful business aircraft. I actually saw one when I was a news photographer in Oklahoma City. I went out to the call of an airplane that had a landing mishap. It was fine, but the first time I saw a Starship on the runway, I'm like, I gotta know what that thing is. And of course, that went down the whole Rutan rabbit hole, and now I'm just completely head over heels with canards and really experimental aircraft, where my heart goes pitter-pat. I love experimental amateur built. I think it is the exciting corner of aviation. So I'm a proud EAA member, and at some point when I have the space, I really want to build a long easy and go from there.
My buddy Kyle Feller flies a long easy aerobatically at air shows. He was at Oshkosh last year, and I got to take a ride with him, and it is surprisingly comfortable for how small it looks when you're on the outside looking at it. I love that you want to build one.
Yeah, oh, they're great, and they're super economical, they're fast, and you know, it's a home built. You can make modifications to it. I like experimental amateur built in the sense that you can do different things with it. But when you're talking like a Vans or a Zenith, it's a kit. You pretty much assemble it the way that it's supposed to be. You get into these composite aircraft, the canard types or some of the others, you can be like, okay, well, what if I want a new nose on the airplane? Or what if I want to change the way that air enters my cowling? Or How about I redesign the way that air leaves my wheel pan? You can do all that. You can experiment with it. You can make new things, and that's just really exciting to me.
So I have to ask you this. You went to Burning Man, but not quite. You went there to go find that airplane that everyone was talking about that was at Burning Man.
Yeah, some friends of mine from Santa Paula had an airplane at High Sierra FlyIn, and they were gracious enough to let me tag along with them. And we went off as a flight of 4 or 5. I was in the back seat of their 182. And we went over and we found the Burning Man 747. It wasn't hard to find, you know. The Dead Cow Lake bed's just a few lake beds over from Black Rock Desert, so beautiful scenic flight over there. And once you get over Black Rock City, you can still see the lines. I know they leave no trace, but from the aerial view, you can sort of see where it was or where it is. And at the time, there was a set of tire tracks that was just rolling down the desert. And there's just gouges in the floor of the desert. And we're like, well, let's just follow this. And so you follow these tire tracks around, and there's a little chunk of private property on surrounded by this beautiful BLM land, and that's where they had parked this thing. You couldn't get up on it. It was fenced in, and they said private property. We all respected that, but we went up to it as close as we could get and staying on public property, and it was really interesting to see, you know, they call it MOOP, matter out of place. That's what they call anything that's not supposed to be there on the desert floor, on the playa, but here you've got this semi-permanent installation there, and so on the nose it has nose art that says MOOP, which means matter out of place. And let me tell you, seeing what's left of a 747 in the middle of absolute nowhere, about as remote as you can get in North America, was quite interesting. I'm super glad that we went over there and saw it. It's so goofy.
It's a great photo. What is this about this 1902 Wright glider?
Yeah, so Kitty Hawk Kites down in the Outer Banks has an amazing thing, or at least they did a few years ago. Check it out before you head there. They're a glider school, like a hang glider school, and they have a recreation of the 1902 Wright glider. And so we got to go down there and fly it for a story, and wow, what an incredible experience. That was the aircraft that the Wright brothers figured out 3-axis flight control. You lay in this thing, and you've got what they called a front rudder. We would now call it a canard or a canard elevator, but at the time they called it a front rudder. And you've got this wooden bar that you kind of rotate with your wrists, and that controls pitch. And you've got these wooden grasps, I guess you'd call them, that go around your waist, and you shift back and forth to warp the wing, and that's your roll control. And control is something I'll use very loosely with that airplane. You're sort of like a leaf in the wind, but they pick you up on Kill Devil Hills, basically on these giant sand dunes, and you have to wait for the wind to be just right. I think they need 25 knots coming right up this sand dune. You're getting pelted with all this dust, but that was the Wright brothers' experience. That was what they did to figure this out. They had those conditions, and they flew down these hills, and that's how we had 3-axis flight control developed by them. So it's really cool. You can go and pay some money and experience that right near First Flight Airport, and just an incredible opportunity that I was able to do while telling that story.
That sounds amazing. That sounds like it would be so hard and also so much fun.
Well, yeah, they have instructors there. I mean, it's not like you're going to fly it off. They have a long tether, so they sort of lift you up into ground effect and give you a little bit of push, and then gravity, you're just sort of in ground effect going down this giant dune, and you sort of flare at the end, but it just hits you right in the chest when you land on the sand. But they've got long tethers. Nobody's going to fly off into the Atlantic Ocean, so it's very safe and very interesting, and definitely something that people should consider for their bucket lists.
You've had some other cool work experiences as well. I saw a really beautiful photo that you took. It looks like you were doing some air-to-air work, and it was a string of Mustangs. Tell me that story.
Oh, yeah, the Stallion 51 30th anniversary. Stallion 51, of course, is the training place to go if you're wanting to really basically get a PhD in Mustang. Lee Louderback and his crew of instructors are the world's preeminent experts in checking people out and making them incredibly safe and proficient in the Mustang. And so all these Mustang pilots from all over the country came together to celebrate the 30th anniversary of Stallion 51, and had the opportunity to shoot a flight of Mustangs air to air. And it was just an incredible night, one of those beautiful Florida cotton candy cloud sunsets, and just a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to shoot Crazy Horse 1 and Crazy Horse 2, two of the most famous Mustangs, together in formation with several others. Just a real treat, and it was a real honor to be the steward there. I kind of, in those moments, I consider myself a steward of the experience. Yes, I'm getting to experience it, but I'm doing my very best. I'm bringing every tool, technique, and experience that I have as a storyteller to be a steward of that experience so people can watch that video and feel like they were there. It's not about me. It's not about, hey, look at me, I'm on YouTube, here's a vlog. It's how can I bring the viewer to these once-in-a-lifetime things. And so I'm just incredibly humbled that I'm in the position to tell those stories, and I hope people can live vicariously through them.
I want to know what some of the most fun flying you do is. Like, what's something that you get to cover or work with that just puts a smile on your face right away?
Oh, I think my favorite event of the year is probably High Sierra FlyIn. It's way out in the middle of nowhere. You got to pack everything in, pack everything out. There's no real electricity. You know, you have to bring solar, or some people bring generators. It's a really cool group of folks that come together. Really all walks of life show up out there. You have everything from, you know, literally there's a guy that brings a little, I don't even know what you call it. It's like a recumbent bike with a sail, so it's not really flying, but is using the wind to move. And then there's people with, they call them butt fans, the powered paragliders, all the way up to last year there was a Pilatus PC-24 business jet out on the playa. So going there and seeing the interesting things, and most importantly, the interesting people that show up, that's really does it for me each year. I look forward to that, and think it's great to be out there, because I love camping. I love the outdoors, and to get out there and combine aviation and desert adventures. I mean, what's more beautiful than the American West? And flying around in deserts and going and seeing geysers and Burning Man 747s. It's just a real treat.
What does EAA Airventure mean to you?
Airventure to me is kind of, ooh, that's a good question, Steph. Airventure to me is like old home week. You know, the adage of you come the first time for the airplanes, you come back for the people is absolutely true. I'm not as heartbroken that I'm not seeing the airplanes as I am. I'm heartbroken I'm not going to be able to visit with my friends, these people that I maybe see only once a year. Airventure means to me the opportunity to meet new people and to reconnect with old friends while bonding over the thing we all love, aviation.
Paul, where can people find you if they want to look you up online and stay in touch with your adventures?
Yeah, I'm on social media. The handle at Paul Harrop Live, that's HARROP LIVE. That's on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram. I'm not the best about posting there, but feel free to connect with me there. And you can see my work at aopa.org/thisweek. That's AOPA Live this week. And all the stuff that we put together while out telling the story of general aviation can be found there.
The man with the fantastic glasses in all of the photos that you sent. You are a glasses connoisseur and a Renaissance man for it. Paul, thank you so much. Everyone who has been watching our EAA Spirit of Aviation Week content, stick around. Much more to come.